Good evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 67th take live from Euless, Texas. I'm Bear Duplessis and I'm so pleased, so awesome to welcome all of you back into our evening show. It's we took a little bit of a break. We had a little bit of unusual circumstances last week, but I'm pleased to be back and I am so excited about this take in particular. You'll meet our guest momentarily, but I am absolutely pleased to have this gentleman on. It's going to be a fantastic show. And I'm so excited to welcome you all in for our 67th take. And our 67th take, of course, is brought to you by our sponsor, Drew Estate. Jonathan Drew and Marvin Semel are not your average cigar makers. Their story does not start in Cuba or with fathers in the cigar business. It started with a dream, and through their can-do spirit and never-say-die attitude, made Drew Estate one of the premium cigar manufacturers on the planet. Two frat brothers from New York started out small. Small as in a 16-foot square foot retail kiosk in the World Trading Center in New York City. But now, since 1998, they've been making some fabulous cigars right there in Nicaragua. Some of the best cigars on the planet, like their new Liga Privada Aniversario 10. Their dedication to collaborate with the most renowned growers in the Connecticut River Valley resulted in the next chapter of Liga, the Liga Privada 10 Aniversario. The full-throttle beast of peppery spice is swathed in a robust Criollo Capa from the heart of the valley, where they grow the mighty leaves that graces Liga Privada, featuring a San Andreas Negro Porte Capote that adds razor-sharp spice and burns to a core blend of well-aged Nicaraguan and Honduran triple leaf. Drew Estate Cigars, our sponsor, and of course, if you guys listen to us on YouTube or on our iTunes, Spotify, Podbeam, or Google Play, if you guys are listening to us via audio, it is brought to you exclusively by Cornelius and Anthony. Cornelius and Anthony Premium Cigars is steeped in tobacco tradition. For over 150 years, the Bailey family has been part of America's tobacco heritage, passionately caring for the land they cultivate in Keysville, Virginia. Cornelius and Anthony's devotion to the finest grown tobacco and foremost aspects of craftsmanship allows them to introduce the most exquisite cigars to the market. They invite you to enjoy their portfolio of premium hand-rolled cigars and experience their dedication to producing an exceptional product. So if you are listening on any of those places or any place you listen to podcasts, you're listening exclusively because of Cornelius and Anthony Premium Cigars. So we thank all of our sponsors and all of our supporters here at ELOSOFUMARTAKES, and it's been a fantastic year so far. And it's all got started with the top 10 cigars of 2018, ELOSOFUMARTAKES' top 10 cigars of 2018. And of course, everyone knows that the Ernesto PEREZ-CARRILLO Encore Valientes was my number one cigar of the year. And so without further ado, I am so pleased to welcome in the ambassador of that fine company, and the mad professor himself. Needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. Mr. Jose Blanco of EP Carrillo. Jose, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, what's up, Beryl? It was great to be with you, and we're lucky that we're having the show. Like I told you a couple of minutes ago, there was like a tornado warnings here in Tallahassee, but everything was okay, and I was a bit worried maybe we would have a power outage or something with the internet, but we're here tonight, so always excited to be with you. You, Coop, and a couple of guys are people that I always talk with, try to catch up with things because, you guys are honest and you say things how they are. So what are you drinking?
I am drinking some 1792 Ridgemont Reserve bourbon in my EP Carrillo cocktail glass. So cheers to you, Jose. I appreciate you coming on.
Salud.
Salud. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now a tornado warning, like it's about to be, unfortunately, tornado season here in Texas. And of course, Texas doesn't decide what the weather wants to do from one day to the next. And so it's actually like 20 degrees outside right now. And I'm, my studio, of course, is subject to the outside elements because it is my garage, and so I've got the heater going on, and I'm actually decently comfortable today, which is kind of nice. But I'm so excited to welcome you in today, Jose, because it's not every day that that I get to talk to all of our fabulous guests, but it's not every day that I get to talk to someone of with your resume when it comes to the top 25 cigars of Cigar Aficionado. You worked with previous companies that had an incredible run, and we're going to get to that in a second. But really what I wanted to dive right into, because you are known as the Mad Professor, you are one of the best blenders in the industry. And now you've teamed up with Cigar Hall of Famer Ernesto PEREZ-CARRILLO Jr. at EP Carrillo. And so I've heard and I've interviewed you and this has come up. So I want to know why African Cameroon wrapper is Jose Blanco's wrapper of choice. That's how we're kicking the show off tonight.
Well, it's funny because for years people ask me, and I try to be as honest as possible, what is your favorite wrapper? My favorite wrapper is Cameroon. Of course, Cameroon grown in Africa by the Merafel family. We have to go back to the days when I worked for La Aurora, and even when I wasn't directly involved in La Aurora, I was already smoking cigars. And all those cigars from La Aurora were made with, grade A Cameroon wrapper. And the thing with Cameroon is it's not only a great wrapper, but it's the characteristics that it has. You put a true Cameroon cigar into your mouth, and the first thing you're going to pick up is that sweet notes like you would have like a milk chocolate in it. And it's very aromatic, and it burns very well. And the biggest growers of true Cameroon African wrapper is the Merafel family. That it was Hella Merafel, the grandfather. Then it was Rick Merafel, that unfortunately died relatively young. And then now the grandkids, Joshua and Jeremiah, have continued to grow the tobacco there. A lot of companies, because of the hardship in Cameroon, they have to have their own security, their own water, their own electricity, their own hospitals, have grown Cameroon also in Ecuador. It's not that it's bad. Actually, it's good, but not as good as Cameroon. Cameroon grown in Ecuador, it's going to be more spicy and more earthy. But Cameroon grown in Africa, I mean, that sweetness out there, it's just out of this world. In my opinion, probably the best wrapper in the world.
I really enjoy Cameroon, and I agree that the Ecuadorian variation, it's different. Like you said, it's not bad. It's just different. And it just isn't like the genuine product. What I get out of Cameroon from Africa, I do get that sweetness that you talk about, but I really do get a lot of nuttiness as well.
Yes, very like a nutmeg. How would you say? It's just a sweetness that's just very unique of that wrapper.
It's really one of those fantastic ones that and it's unfortunate, like you said, it's because it's just so hard to get. Africa is just a tumultuous continent. That it's beautiful, wonderful people and beautiful countries and everything like that. But a lot of these countries, it seems like every other day one of them is in civil unrest, and it's just very difficult to have to maintain the quality of the product, the quality of life, and sometimes. And so it's unfortunate because that country in particular has so much to offer this industry. And so, whenever you can get genuine African Cameroon, and use it for premium cigars, it's truly, like you said, a very fabulous experience. What do you like? I don't want to say your favorite, because we just talked about this before the show, but what is in your opinion, what are a couple of the finest examples of cigars that you yourself did or you've seen with genuine African Cameroon?
Well, I don't really like the two brands. To me, the best two Cameroon cigars I had in my life, without a doubt, was the cigar that was made for Guillermo Leon's father with a Cameroon wrapper. It was a 5 1/4 by 42. The roller who used to make it was only 75 cigars. And the other one was the one that Don Carlos smoked, made personally for him also. There was a roller, maybe 5 by 50 or 5 by 2, many times when I would be in the airport picking up people, he would always ask me, Blanco, you have a light? And I said, Don Carlos, but of course. And then he would put a cigar in my pocket.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm still here, Jose. I turned off the camera because the audio's getting just a little bit rough. So this actually can help. So, but I'm still here. So I really enjoyed those cigars when I first started. Like not first started smoking cigars, but I mean just a few. It seems like it was forever ago. But when those cigars came out and were available, I remember really enjoying a lot of that stuff that was coming out of the factory at the time that you were there and you were working there. And like I said, we're going to get to that here in a second. But actually, I think this is a good time to kind of lead into that. So you've had a very storied resume, and you had an incredible run at the Cigar Aficionado Top 25 with your time at La Aurora. You had so many. I think it was 9 consecutive years of being in the top 15 of the top 25.
Let me see. I think, to be honest, when I was there, let me see. 05, 06, 07, 08, 09. Then we did Vision 4. So I think it was at least, to be honest, I think it was like six or seven in the years that I was there at La Aurora.
Just an incredible run. And I mean, the thing we talk about when we talk about the Cigar Aficionado Top 25 list is we talk about the consistency of the brand, the consistency of the product from year to year, that you see the products consistently in there. So when you run off 6-7 years of having that amazing product available to you, and producing it at such high level, that's incredible. And you were at the center of that. What was that? What was that like with that team in place and the role that you had with that company at the time? Just being able to produce that consistency. What was that process like for someone like yourself?
Well, now, first of all, it's the oldest cigar company in the Dominican Republic. Now they're celebrating their 115th year. But one of the things was the amount of tobacco that Guillermo's father, when he was alive, would have there, and then also Guillermo. When you have a family business, it's totally different. You take, like in the case of Ernesto, and now we just finished with Pro Cigar, and when people went through our warehouses and saw the amount of tobacco that we have, because a lot of people will ask me, what's the most important thing in a factory? And I said, actually, with one word, and I say it's actually 3 words, and it's consistency, consistency, consistency. But how do you really achieve that consistency? Is you having very, very good old age tobacco. So in a way, companies, you would say like Fuente, like Padron, like La Aurora, and some other companies out there, to be honest, one of their main strength, they're great blenders, don't get me wrong, but you have to have those there. When you have tobaccos that are 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, that helps a lot.
I mean, that's so much tobacco. And like you said, when you have that variety of a stock to pull from, it really makes the creative process, that much more fun and that much more enjoyable. So fast forward over, you moved to Joya de Nicaragua, and I think, and we've a lot of us have talked about this particular cigar. The Cuenca y Blanco, or the CYB, which it was later rebranded as, in a lot of people that I talked to, never caught a fair shake, because that blend was so fantastic, particularly in the TAA that they did, which was the Lancero. Really enjoy that cigar.
That cigar, to be honest, was amazing. And we've said numerous times. The problem was that we encountered, like when we launched that cigar, there was Cuenca y Blanco, we didn't have a problem. I think in the first 2 or 3 months we saw, I don't remember, was 250 or 300,000. Then the situation came up with the name, and we had to change it. And, you know, people would post on Facebook like Blanco Blanco and CYB, and people would ask which is which. And I remember that, you know, at that time, you know, Saka was there, and Jonathan and me, and we would be talking, and it was the kiss of death to have changed the name. I mean, I still go to the stores and people will say, look, I've been saving this for you when you came, and they would give me an original Cuenca Blanco. But it was a fantastic. I mean, remember, we didn't make it on Cigar Aficionado, but on the consensus, we were the cigar of the year that year. So, I mean, it was a fantastic time that I had at Hoya with Alejandro, Juan, and all the team there, that on different blends for private labels and other things we did for a lot of people. So it was really a really interesting time for me at Hoya Nicaragua, because I had come from Cigar Factory, Cigar in Nicaragua, a company that I have the utmost respect. Alejandro Martinez is one of the most honest and the people in the industry. Juan, his son, and Mario, and all the people at Hoya. It's a great company. And talking about Nicaragua, you know, Em and I always have Nicaragua in our prayers. That's where Jasper was born, and we spent 2 great years there. So we wish the people of Nicaragua all the best.
It's really interesting that you went from a place that you had called home in the Dominican to a company in Nicaragua. And then when did you start doing the blending seminars? Did you do it when you launched your company in Seniorial?
No. I was doing that. I was doing that back in La Aurora, because what happened was, when I was doing the seminars, I would do the seminars like with 4 types of fillers. I remember we started that off with the 1495, and then we had fillers Dominican and Peru. That was the blend that we created for that. So what we would do is, people would go to 4 different fillers and then smoke the. One day, I was always making notes about what people asked when they came to the factory. So people will always ask, what's really the impact of the wrapper? And I said to Guillermo one day, you know, seminars with 3 wrappers, this, and that. And then he says, well, why don't we do it with 4? And then it's, if you're going to do it 4, do it with 5. So now with Ernesto, I've been doing it with 6. And now for Pro Cigar, we had 2 groups there. There was a huge group of Spanish people there. And, you know, a lot of the Spaniards and a lot of people in Europe, the Cubans have told them that the wrapper doesn't have any impact. And for years they heard it, because a lot of them have been in my seminars in Nicaragua, but there was a group that had never been in a seminar. And when they did the seminar, they realized really what the impact of the wrapper is. But I think, let me put it to you this way. I think we all want to sell cigars, which is important. But at the end of the day, our industry needs to have more education towards the retailers and the consumers, because the more educated that the retailer is and the more educated the consumer is, it makes our life easier.
I 100% agree, and and unfortunately, I caught the tail end of one of your blending seminars when you came to Texas, and it was when you had launched your own company, and then you had done Seniorial and everything. Let's talk about Seniorial for just a second, because I do want to spend a lot of time on, obviously, the cigar of the year conversation, but the Seniorial. That was a cigar, and when we had it in the shop and we were selling it, and I was talking to folks about that cigar in particular, it was one of those cigars that really is just incredibly balanced. You know, it's not too much of this, it's not too much of that. It's just one of those cigars that's incredibly balanced, and that sometimes can be polarizing, because people want a dominant trait. They want a really sweet cigar. They want a really spicy cigar. And Seniorial just wasn't that. But, you know, I mean, I mean, how do you feel when you say like, well, I've created an incredibly well-balanced cigar. And, for anyone who says that to you, like what's kind of your response? Because that was something I struggled with when people were looking for a dominant flavor, and I have this truly fabulous cigar. What would you say to people that would bring up Señorial to you?
Well, in the beginning, I mean, and toward everything came up with the FDA. Em and I were very happy because we had Señorial. Like our first limited edition was the 65th anniversary. I mean, for a small company to make 1,000 cigars in 10-count boxes, and we sold them like in 4 or 5 months out of
Oh,
there.
that
The same
cigar
thing
was
we did
incredible.
with the Lancero. And when Emma came up with the Frey, and it was all by herself, amazing. But right now, she still handles the business because I don't have anything to do with it. She does very well in Europe, and she does very well in Connecticut and New Hampshire. A lot of accounts that still have supported her, but the cigar, to be honest, was, in my opinion, very good. It still keeps selling. Let me put it to you this way. If you look at when we launched it and what you're seeing that has come out lately, people have gone more towards more the strength level. And maybe if we would have come out with a cigar was a little bit more strong, could have been more different. But at that time, we were looking. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm always going to take flavor over strength all the time. And it still does well, and Europe does very well too. But it's not that I'm not involved anymore. It's just Emma who's dealing with that.
It's truly one of those just really great cigars that I go back to. I still have some that I have aging. I've talked about numerous times. I'm a big age experimenter, so I have some set back to try at certain points, and I'm really looking forward to it because I really find that cigar to be incredibly balanced, and I really enjoy it. It was just one of those questions that I always struggled with when I was talking to people about, and they're like, because those people that wanted that dominant, like you said, wanted strength, or it didn't necessarily quite hit the spot for the people who were looking for that, blow your doors off kind of cigar, because it wasn't that.
Yeah, I agree.
So fast forward to now, you've moved over to EP Carrillo Cigars, and you've been there for a while now, and then this year comes along, and a project that Ernesto PEREZ-CARRILLO Jr. has been working on for seems like forever. Yeah, seems like forever because it's been talked about so much. You guys launched the Encore back last April, and I was fortunate enough I work for Michael's Tobacco Vilas, as a lot of people know, and we were fortunate enough to host the regional release party in Texas, and we got to I was one of the first Texans to smoke it, and I was one of the first people in the country to smoke it, and that cigar immediately spoke to me. Really enjoyed it. But the thing that has impressed me the most about that particular blend, two things actually. One, it's a Nicaraguan Puro, and it's Ernesto's first Nicaraguan Puro. And it doesn't taste like what you think a
typical
dominant
Nicaraguan cigar.
Yes, typical Nicaraguan. You think, especially if it's going to be a Puro, you think that this is going to be an overwhelmingly spicy cigar. There's going to be a lot of bang for it. We talked about that full bodied cigar a second ago. You would think that would probably be in the realm. This is an insanely complex, elegant smoke. And the second thing that I was going to say is about the Encore is that what was surprising to me is how much better it's gotten. With every order that's come in since April, and it gets better every time I smoke it, and I just really enjoy it. So here's the question, Jose. After all that long amount of talking, when you were at the center of this, okay, now this is Ernesto cigar that you didn't necessarily have handed. Obviously, He's bouncing ideas off the Mad Professor. And I know you probably had a hand in helping him and giving him feedback and things like that. But as far as being at the center of the company, when you guys launch in April, fast forward a few months, and you're named the #1 cigar of the year, the most coveted prize, if you will, honor, if you will, on a yearly basis given out to a cigar. What can you share with our viewers and listeners what that experience was like?
Well, we got to go back a little. So I arrived at EPC in the 2016, and Ernesto and I had been friends for many, many years. And Ernesto's days at General, or when he had his company, we would always bump into each other. Ernesto would give me cigars. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? I said, I like this. I like that. So already when I arrived to EPC, the Encore was already in the works. And of course, right off the bat, I started the first week there to smoke it. Then we went down to the factory. Then Ernesto kept tweaking it, and let's change this and let's change that. And something that a lot of people don't know is that that cigar was going to be launched in 2017 for the show.
Right.
And at the last minute, Ernesto said, no, it still needs something. And like me, David, and some of the other people that worked there were smoking it. We're not going to argue with Ernesto. We said it was good. But me knowing Ernesto for so many years and how picky he is, I didn't even argue for a moment. So then he made a couple of more improvements through, I would say, we came back in July. It would be August and September. And then we started, no, to be honest, I think it was like a couple of weeks after the show. It could have been already August, yes. And then when we smoked it again, then we came down to the last couple of blends. And as I said, we all agreed on this one. Then he started the production. The cigars were made and left 6-7 months in the aging room to go. Now, that said, and anybody who follows me on whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, from day one, I always said, in my humble opinion, this is Ernesto's all-time blend. And let me tell you something. Historia is a great cigar. Dark Rituals is a great cigar. There's many great cigars that Ernesto has made. But to me, the most, how would I say? Let me put it. The one that he put, and he said, don't get me wrong, Historia is an amazing cigar. But the difference with Encore is that Encore, and like you said, and we've had this conversation, 100% Nicaragua. It doesn't taste like your typical Nicaraguan cigar. But remember, and we've said this, and we even published this, that wrapper also in what Tercios was his palm bark for a long time. So that process that's very, very costly really makes a big difference in the cigar. The cigar is rich. It's a medium plus, has a nice spice, nice earthiness, but the complexity of the cigar, this total stimulation you receive in your mouth, and if you retrohale the cigar, that's when you're really going to pick up notes that very seldom you find in a cigar. Anybody can smoke that cigar and find it good, and it's going to enjoy it. But the people who are really, like really into the details of, analyzing that cigar is just an amazing cigar. Like I've said, it's everything you want in a cigar and more.
And it's so incredible because it's a Puro. That's the thing that really, it just really knocks you back. When you think of like complexity and nuance and different notes, and when you really get, for all the nerds out there that really get into the nitty gritty of things, and you talk about a cigar that has that complexity, and if I say in the same sentence the word Puro, people are going to look at you funny. But it is all that and more. So real quick, Jose, because I want to take you back to when when you were at the Soul Heart and blending was your sole responsibility. Of course, you always had great teams around you. Don't want to take away from those folks. But so when you said Ernesto said it wasn't ready and nobody wanted to argue with him because it's Ernesto. Take us back. Did you ever have that experience when you were blending cigars for your own company, for La Aurora, for Jorge de Nicaragua? Was there ever a cigar that you were like on the? And I'm not going to ask you to name the cigar. I want to just know why. What I want to get to is why you felt a particular cigar wasn't ready. Was it just the way it tasted? Was it the way it burned? Was it a combination of things? What was that feeling like?
Okay, going back to the Encore, it's not that. Look, if there's one thing that probably made me work with Ernesto, and we've learned from each other, and we have different views. We're passionate. We're in Santiago. It could be 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. We're sitting in that balcony looking towards Santiago and smoking cigars. We're talking about different cigars and different things and what we want to accomplish. But the good thing about Ernesto, and I know to me, and we've talked about it too, is Ernesto is probably one of the few living legends still alive. But more than anything else, he is so humble. So when he's saying that it needs a little bit more, it's like we knew what Ernesto, and it's like that we didn't say it's ready. But when you have somebody like a blender like Ernesto that says, we still could make it better. Take my word, you can really count on. And it was a little bit of, I think, being very, very, very good to be in like an extraordinary.
Yeah, the patience was certainly rewarded by waiting and taking a little bit more time and a little extra care.
I invited. Oh yeah, that detail, that little change. I mean, it was great. He just made it great. Now, what I was saying is, I was saying as if an hour or to an event, and somebody in front of you says he knows everything. As soon as you get, because this is an ongoing. Of course, we had.
Jose, hold on a second. You're cutting in and out, so I don't want to lose the train of thought here. So just one moment here as we kind of get through some difficulties here. I want to kind of reset. Could you just go back a couple of sentences and repeat that? I'm sorry.
No, the thing is that one of the things about Ernesto is how humble he is. So he, and will give me the cigars, give them to David, and give them to Junior, the factory, a couple of other people, and try to get a consensus on it. It's not like some people that say, I blended it, this is this, take it or leave it, whatever that. I like to hear feedback. What do you think? It needs more spice. It's not complex enough. It's not aromatic enough. He gets into all the little details about that. So going back to when I was working with other companies, we would always have a team of people. We would make up the blends, let them rest for 21 days, then just give them out blind with a sheet of paper to everybody every morning. And then everybody would have to submit, whenever he had time to smoke the cigar, and we would be comparing notes. Look, nobody in the world could just take filler, binder, and wrapper, put it all together, and just on a one-time thing say, one-time blend, make a cigar that is a winner. It's always going to take time. You got to play with the percentages of the wrapper, with the percentages of the filler. You got to sometimes change the binders. Then maybe you have to go to different types of tobacco, because what a lot of people don't understand is sometimes you have two great tobaccos, two great fillers. You put them in a blender, you're going to say, this tobacco is 6 years old and this one's 7 years old. This is going to be the best blend I've ever made. You put them together, you leave them to rest 21 days, and then when you light the cigar, you go like, what the fuck? What happened? What people don't understand is that because they're great tobaccos, it's like, how do you say it in English? Heads up car collision, that both of them crash. Because what happened is they're both fighting for the flavor, they're both fighting for the strength, they're fighting for the body, they're fighting for the aroma. So all of a sudden, then you got to make those blends again and start tweaking and changing and things like that. Because what people don't understand is that tobaccos have to harmonize to get the flavor, the strength, the aroma, the complexity, the balance that I always say that a blend has to have.
You know, I recently have I've done some. We've done this kind of this activity. It's been running over for a couple of months. We've always done what we call the game in the cigar shop, and the game results from, you know, a colleague hands you a cigar blind, takes the label off and everything, and just has you smoke it. And we've turned it into a little bit of a competition to see if we can guess what the cigar is. But it's also to smoke a cigar without any, you know, without any feeling behind it, without any like undue influence, bias, you know, because we talked about bias and stuff like that, and that can certainly affect your opinion about a cigar right off the bat. And so that was something that we started doing. And so, you know, and I've recently had, you know, I went on a pretty just crazy run of being able to pick out cigars, and you know, a couple of people that were, you know, bearing witness, a couple of colleagues that were bearing witness to this were just like, oh, this is incredible. That I can't believe you. I just, you know, that's insane. I can't believe you've been on this run. And I think about that, and as cool as it was, like, I still couldn't on my best day do what you do and do what Ernesto does. And that's blend the fabulous cigar in the first place. So it's something to be said that, you know, one could have a great palate, but it's also knowing what to change, not just recognizing what something is, but it's also knowing what to change. You know,
well, that's why I always, you know, people ask me, well, how long did it take? Like in the case of Encore, it took, honestly, it's 2.5+ years. Like when we did CYB and Hoya, that took us, I don't know, 5 or 6 months there. When I did Cien Años for La Aurora, over 1.5 years, Señorial, 7 months. And I mean, it's not, how would you say, it really, really, you have to be patient about it. Because at the end of the day, I'll give you an example. You make a cigar, 21 days. Say, okay, 3 blends, let's tweak it again. You make 3 more blends, you leave them 21 days. So let's say this goes on for 4 months. So already you made 15 or 16 different blends. And then all of a sudden you say, okay, this one we like. So you're going to leave it 21 days, you make them again. Now we're going to smoke them at 30. So let's say at 30, they smoke well. And then for the final decision, let's leave it to 60 days. And what happens if at 60 days, halfway through the cigar went totally flat? So you know what you got to do? You got to go back, you got to start over again. But not only that, then you have to start to look at the tobaccos, where the tobaccos were from, or what happened to the blend, or re-smoke that cigar and see if the roller, when he was making that blend, he put the leaves in the proper position. And that's why I always tell people, you know, some people take one cigar and they smoke, that's a piece of crap. This is okay. Maybe it was tight, maybe it was loose, maybe the guy was having a bad day, maybe he mixed one of the fillers. You really, to give an opinion about a cigar, you got to smoke at least 3 cigars, not even 2 cigars. So, you know, some friends from other companies smoke cigars from everybody. Everybody gives me stuff. The only thing I said, look, at least send me 3, and I don't want all sizes. Just send me one size, and I'll give you opinion on it. And I'll give a fair opinion about it, if I like it or I don't like it. And if I don't like it, I'll tell them why. It's like sometimes I give a cigar to some guy and says, try, give me your opinion. Why I didn't like it. Okay, that does not offend me. But tell me, what did you not like?
Right.
Was it too strong? Did it lack depth? Was it not balanced? Was it just not good? Tell me what. And they go like, no, that's not it. I don't get offended if you tell me you don't like the cigar. Tell me what you don't like, so I can more or less, if I get the same opinion, try to make it better.
Absolutely, it's about just making the experience better. And like, I mean, even if it's within the EPC family, like if you're working an event like that, right, and someone comes up and says they don't like a particular cigar, you're like, okay, well, what about this? You know, you have other offerings in other directions to take them. But yeah, when they just tell you that flat answer, it definitely makes it frustrating. But you mentioned size a minute ago, Jose, and I'll come back on here so I can show. This is the Encore, the Majestic, that won the heralded #1 cigar of the year from Cigar Aficionado. Now, I don't know if this has changed, Jose, but I asked you when we did the event together for the worldwide release of it. Now, the Majestic won the #1 cigar of the year for Cigar Aficionado. The Valientes Vitola was the ELOSOFUMARTAKES #1 cigar of the year. So, and this is what I want to emphasize again. I said this on that show. This is really incredible. I'm not a Torpedo fan. Like, it's not a Vitola that I particularly enjoy, both for the most part across the board. And in fact, there are some really great companies out there that make fabulous blends that I can't stand the Vitola when it's a Torpedo. Like, I can't, just can't stand it. It's just one of those things. And the Valientes was my #1 cigar of the year. Now, you like the El Primero, right? You like the larger one. Is that still the case, or have you kind of moved?
No, to be honest, I've smoked them all, and even though Majestic was the one that was rated the highest, and I got to tell you, some of the guys that are in our sales team, they're a big fan of the Valientes. They, I don't know,
it's great.
And the cigars, I know I like it. I would say probably for me, it's a tie between the Majestic and the Valientes, and even though I haven't smoked the Valientes in a couple of months. I'm gonna pick one up one of these days again and smoke it, because I'll tell you, the Valiente really smokes good. They all smoke good, to be honest.
So you've changed. So like when you first started when we did that event together, you said at the time you were really enjoying the larger Vitola. You were really enjoying the El Primero. So
but I'll tell you why. And I got to be honest. I was smoking more El Primero, because you got to remember that Primero is the same size as the E3. And the E3 in La Historia was the one that got awarded the #2 cigar of the year.
Right.
So I was stuck on it a lot. But then after that, because that was like in March that we had the event there. So as the months went by, I was smoking the other ones. And then to me, to be honest, it was like a tie between Majestic and Valientes.
Yeah, the Valientes, I really enjoy the Vitola. I mean it's perfect, and it does so well with this blend, and it's just so great. Because I can't emphasize it enough. I'm just not a Torpedo fan. I'm not. So when I say a Torpedo is good, like I don't want to toot my own horn, and not on this particular cigar specifically, but just in general. If I ever point you to a Torpedo and I say that it's really good, it's really good. Because I'm just not a fan of the size.
No, it's like a lot of people, they're not fans of Bach press. I'll tell you, for example, in Europe, there's some countries really, it doesn't matter what the company is, that just box press cigars do not do well. I mean, that same company might have, just parejos, round cigars, and they do much better. But to me, I'm not. I mean, I like everything, but it has to be good. And the older I get, the more picky I get.
So speaking of picky, we're gonna turn the tide here. I'm gonna have this. This is kind of our final question, Jose, and I gave you a heads up on it, so it wasn't. I'm not ambushing here. You said that you had somebody in mind, so I'm kind of excited about this. So we talked about your storied resume, and you've worked with some incredible people in this industry: Guillermo Leon, Dr. Cuenca, San Juan, Ernesto, and of course,
Archie, my cousin.
yes, Ochi, and then of course, and not to be silly or anything, but you yourself in your own right, where you've worked with yourself, and in a lot of circles, a lot of people would consider
Yes.
you a legend in this business. I certainly do. And so you've had the opportunity to work with all these fantastic people. So the question of the day, Jose, is not that this would ever happen, or not that you have any inkling. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. And like I said, I gave you this question before, so you said you had someone in mind, but living or dead. Okay, so the question is, the person can be alive or they can be dead. Who is someone that Jose Blanco really would love to team up with and blend a cigar?
Look, I've had the privilege of meeting, spending time, visiting the majority of the factories out there. Everybody knows that Pepin and I have been friends for many, many, many years, inclusive in the beginnings when he was, just working with Eduardo. It's a man that I admire, respect a lot. I haven't interacted with AJ that much, but he's a good guy, of course. The Padron family. I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out, but the person, if I could work with the person that I utmost respect and has taught me a lot, and which every month at least I go and spend 2 or 3 hours with him, which I think is truly a living legend, which is, I call him Uncle Benji, which is Benjamin Menendez. Without a doubt, probably one of the most talented and most knowledgeable in our industry. Nobody living or done what Benji has done. Benji was the owner of Montecristo, Polarrañaga, and H. Sherman in Cuba. After being a millionaire, left Cuba with $100, worked for Philip Morris a while, went to Canary Islands in Spain, I think it was 12 or 13 years, then went down to Brazil, how many years? Then he was vice president of General, then vice president of Altadas, then back to General again. At 82 years, he probably has the most interesting story that can be told. And to be honest, we've asked him a lot of friends, and he doesn't want to write it. But if there's somebody who could write a book about tobacco from all over the world that is a living legend, which I wish I would have the possibility to work with one day, would be Benji Menendez.
Benji's one of those, like you said, living legends. And I had him in there, but I didn't know if you were going to pick him. And I thought that might come up. But I also thought you might pull the jokester on me and be like, I'd like to work with myself again. But it's interesting. And you're not, and I've asked this question in a varied amount of ways to several people, again, not necessarily that direct way, but just, like who's out there that you respect, or do you think has contributed the most, or who's contributed a lot, or et cetera. Just varied the question. And Benji's name is the name that gets mentioned over and over and over again. Like you said, his life has just been so rich, and it's been such a journey, and he's done so much. And I always use this metaphor all the time, Jose, and you've definitely fallen in this category too. You've probably forgotten more about tobacco than I'll ever know. And I think that's the case of Benji probably about 20 times over. He's probably relearned it and forgot again more about tobacco than all of us will ever know. And so he certainly is.
That's true. And, it's when I'm with Ernesto in the office, and sometimes I call Benji, I'll put Ernie on the phone, and they will talk for a while. They talk. They work together many years. Ernesto is the same thing. You know, Ernesto's father had that little factory in Cuba, and they came out with just making little cigars in Calle Ocho to what Ernesto has done. You know, it's really something that but people don't realize. You know, to be honest, there's not a lot of people left. There's just a handful of people left that are really considered, people, real tobacco people.
Absolutely.
I have to go one of these days. We promised Benji, promise go over there, and you could be sure we're gonna, the three of us, when we get together, we're gonna come back and talk about memories. But I could tell anybody, I wish Benji could still. He has problem with his vertigo, but his mind is just smoking a couple of cigars every day. He knows everything that's happening in the industry, and it's like I say, it's him and Ernesto and a couple of other people out there are out there that we wish them health overall.
It's interesting you mentioned about Benji's legendary status, and of course, Ernesto, we've talked a lot about tonight as well. And the thing that I find the most fascinating, and Coop and I have actually talked about this on one of our shows, and that is the fact that we're the folks that are unfortunately now passing. We've lost Mr. Padron, we've lost Mr. Fuente over the last couple of years.
Gilberto Oliva.
Yeah, Gilberto Oliva is certainly another one. And a lot of that generation is unfortunately getting older and won't be with us forever. We can only hope so. But what the thing is, we'll never know people that experienced what they experienced. The journey, there's a reason that all their stories are very similar. And it's because of the unfortunate circumstances that a lot of them found themselves in. But we'll never have a collection of those amazing stories from so many amazing people again. And that's the crazy thing. There's this new generation, that's kind of coming into posterity, into this industry and everything. But their story is much different than like Senor Padron and Fuente, Ernesto, and Benji. We lost Arsenio Ramos a few years ago as well. A few months ago, excuse me. And
Rolando Reyes too.
Yeah, Rolando Reyes. I mean, Frankie Niza. Frankie Niza at the ripe young age of 100 years old, or a couple days shy of his 100th birthday. Just unbelievable gentlemen that have done such amazing things in this industry. We'll just never experience that. And so I love when I talk to folks like yourself, Jose, and even and folks considerably younger than you, and they still talk with such great reverence about folks like Benji Menendez and Ernesto and all these people and it's not going to end. They'll eventually, pass on and leave us, but their story won't leave with them. It'll keep going.
Definitely. And you know what a lot of people don't realize that all those people that you mentioned, and I mean, we cannot leave out Henke Kellner, which is also one of the two, Guillermo's father, Fernando Leon. Just to give you an example, he could take a leaf of tobacco, put it in his hand, or make a little fuma out of it, and he could tell you, this is from Gurabo, this is from Mao, this is from Jacagua, this is from La Línea, this is from Mao, this is from La Canela. I mean, those are people that, they didn't have blood in their veins. It was just the essential oils of tobacco people that just dedicated their lives to making great cigars and the passion. A lot of these people, it's not the same thing when you have a corporation, that you have a family-owned company Family-owned companies, whether it's a big company making 30 million cigars or a small company just making 500,000 cigars, the passion is totally different. Of course, they want to make money to support their families and, grow the company, but the passion is totally different. And I respect family-owned business the same way that I respect, the retailers, the brick and mortars of them that, go out every day there and, just try to sell cigars and make a living with all the crap that we get from the government for taxes and FDA and smoking bans.
You mentioned Fernando Leon, and that's next level talent. That's incredible, and to bear witness to some of these folks, yourself included, that have that kind of knack and that ability is something a sight to see. And so, if anyone out there listening or watching has the opportunity to attend Jose Blanco blending seminar, I encourage you to be the first in line. And if you're not the first in line, shove the guy who's in first in line out of the way, so that you can be the first in line. Because it'll be an experience. It'll be an experience that you will talk about for the rest of your life. And because of the detail that we were talking about tonight with some of these great folks, Jose is one of those great folks that has that ability and can really reignite. Even if you're insanely passionate about this business, he's one of those individuals that can reignite your passion for cigars and for the cigar industry because of his level of knowledge. So I encourage you to attend it. I encourage you to smoke the #1 cigar of the year from ELOSOFUMARTAKES, which is the EP Carrillo Encore Valientes, and smoke with Jessica as well, because, little publication called Cigar Aficionado named it the #1 cigar as well. And but El Primero is good as too. But a lot of great folks from it. And Jose, as we wrap up, I just want to tell you how much it really means to me for you. I know it's late there, and you dodged a tornado warning and everything today to be on my show. I really appreciate it. It means more to me than you'll ever know. So thank you for joining us.
Bear, it's a pleasure. It's funny. From the first day I met you, we hit it off. And I talk with Coop a lot and some of the guys. And like I've told you this in private. And I've said in other shows we've done. I have a lot of respect for you. You're one of the young generation, very talented, very passionate. But more than anything else, you're very respectful. And because of that respect, you've gotten the respect from a lot of people in the industry and also a lot of consumer that have told me, even though he's a young kid, he's very smart, he's very talented, he has a good palate, but more than anything else, very respectful. Plus, you do your research with passion, and that takes you to the next step. And I know that the sky is the limit for what you can do. Thank you for having me on this show and other shows you do with Coop and other people. And anytime you want me on, it's more. It doesn't matter the time or the tornado warnings to be on this. Keep up the good job. And also Fumar. So have a nice evening. Good night. Take care, brother.
I appreciate, Jose, unbelievably humbling those words. So thank you. Thank you very much. To all of you guys that tuned in and listened tonight, we really appreciate you guys. And as always, you know that you can catch us on wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, Podbeam, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Hashtag ELOSOFUMARTAKES. And that content, of course, is exclusively brought to you by Cornelius and Anthony Cigars. So enjoy, listen, subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. As always, we'll join you next week for Take 68. This was our 67th take, live from Euless, Texas. I'm Bear Duplessis. He's Jose Blanco, the mad professor of EP Carrillo Cigars. Guess what, guys? We'll see you next time.